Our first speaker of today has 35 years experience in the tech industry and has won multiple awards that have recognized his work in the Agile community in the UK and online. In 2013, he started 101 Ways with the aim to improve and enrich people's lives through technology. If doing Agile is not enough to solve your problems, how can we go beyond the Agile frameworks and get back to basics? What is the real essence of agility? Please welcome Kelly Waters with his keynote titled The Agile Time Warp.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, and welcome everyone to the CTO Crafts Spring Conference. The team pulled together a really fantastic lineup, so I feel quite humbled to be part of it. And I hope all of you get something really useful to take away that's going to help you in your daily work over these next few days. First of all, I'd like to start by offering a public apology. Some of you who know of Rocky Horror may have been expecting me to turn up in stockings and lipstick and be doing the time warp, but I'm sorry, folks, you're just going to be disappointed. That's just not going to happen. For those of you that thought maybe the title Agile Time Warp was just a little play on words and I was just going to waffle on about Agile for the next half an hour, then you're in the right place. So why then is my talk called the Agile Time Warp? Well, I'm old enough to remember the days before Agile, what life was like before the word Agile came about as a way to describe some of these more modern approaches to product development. And I remember those dark days before Agile, when the IT industry was really focused more on processes and methodologies and bureaucracy than it was on getting things done. And I remember when there was projects in the IT industry generally had no involvement from users, no involvement from customers, no feedback. There were memes about how the IT industry was a joke for always delivering late and often delivering the wrong thing. And then Agile came along, and I felt a sense of joy, like a sense of relief almost. Finally, there's a different way of doing things. An approach that's focused on delivery and focused on the user, being user-centered, lightweight and iterative, an approach that focused on getting things done and building the right thing. And then year after year, gradually, collectively, the IT industry has added more methodologies, competing frameworks, and layered on more layers and layers and layers of complexity. Until now, I feel like some Agile frameworks look more like their predecessors from the 90s than ever before. We seem to be going in a circle. We seem to be heading back to where we came from. It's like the IT industry is stuck in a loop. And that's what I mean by a time warp. It's like when people stopped wearing flared trousers. Like after 20 years, they came back in fashion. And it's a while before the next generation realized that actually it's the same stupid mistake again. And flared trousers look just as stupid on them as they do on their parents. If we're serious about achieving greater agility, then I believe we need to get back to the basics, back to the essence of agility and look beyond the frameworks. Because doing Agile won't solve your problems. It's solving your problems that makes you more agile. So what really is the essence of agility? What are some of the important aspects of delivery beyond the frameworks, regardless of whether your organization is small, large, or scaling up? And for me, the essence of agility really hinges on three vital capabilities. That's continuous delivery, continuous measurement, and continuous improvement. So the first vital capability, continuous delivery, that's the ability for anyone to release anything at any time without being constrained by fixed release schedules, by changes from other projects, by the availability of testers, or by big multi-team release trains. Why wait for a train if everyone can have their own car? So continuous delivery is really about delivering in small steps, enabling you to constantly get feedback from users. The second vital capability in the essence of agility, in my mind, is continuous measurement. It's about the ability to focus on outcomes rather than outputs. It's the ability to measure the impact of the work being delivered and to understand why the work matters. The ability to experiment and test what works, and more importantly, to find out what doesn't work. It's the ability to receive constant feedback, constant measurement, and the ability to use that to determine the next priorities, rather than them being preset when the user's needs are really just theory. So continuous measurement coupled with continuous delivery enables you to get frequent feedback from your users and metrics that allow you to constantly course correct and make sure that in the end you build the right product, a product that your users will love. And the third vital capability in the essence of Agile is continuous improvement. It's the ability to learn, adapt, reflect, for everyone to have their say, a safe space where there's psychological safety for people to say what they really think, regardless of their seniority or status in the group. I see continuous improvement as a critical success factor, perhaps the critical success factor for any business. Creating a culture that enables people to contribute not only in their work, but also with their ideas about how they should work and how the team can work better together. Apart from being a safe environment for speaking up, it's important any reflections, suggestions are constructive, of course, but also actionable. And regular discussions about how to make actionable improvements will definitely lead to better results over time, regardless of any methodology. So these three things together, I think, continuous delivery, continuous measurement, and continuous improvement are really the essence of agility that will help you to transform your ability to deliver the right product and in a way that's right for you. Because different practices, methodologies, people, ideas, etc., they all come and go. But principles last. So don't get too wedded to any one methodology or any one approach, because there's no one right way to do things. And what's right today probably won't be right tomorrow, or right in a different context, or right for different people. There are so many different ways to do things. To find the right way at any given moment, you're likely to need to scrap or introduce new processes on a regular basis. So instead of focusing too heavily on process and practice, focus on principles. Principles stand the test of time. Principles like delivering frequently, measuring outcomes, and constantly improving. Because if you can do these things well, you will go far. Underlying these three vital capabilities is the principle of putting people over process. It's about putting people and human interaction ahead of predefined processes that may or may not work for them at that moment in time. You could potentially define a perfect operating model on paper, and in practice it doesn't work. Alternatively, you can just try things, experiment with ideas, keep the things that work, scrap the things that don't, keep your processes and practice simple, keep any predefined ways of working lightweight, keep them flexible. So this is my idea of the essence of agility. Continuous delivery, continuous measurement, continuous improvement, all underpinned by lightweight, collaborative, flexible processes that are around people rather than the process. So let's break that down into some slightly more practical blocks. So firstly, on continuous delivery. So if you think about the practices that might help you to achieve this in your environment, you're going to need a few key capabilities to make it work. Firstly, you're going to need to make sure that you can separate your architecture, that you can manage your code base in a way that allows any one person to release their changes without accidentally releasing changes from other projects. You need to set this up in the right way from the start to make sure there's good understanding between engineers on how they can release independently of others. Secondly, you need the ability to automate your deployments, so the effort involved in releasing the product as regularly as you want isn't a barrier and can be repeated exactly the same way every single time. And thirdly, you need the ability to automate all of the testing that you want to do prior to shipping a release, ideally as early and often as possible during the development cycle, not just in end-to-end automated tests at the end. These things might be easier said than done, but they're extremely powerful. Implement these 3 things and you should be in a position to release any change whenever it's ready, whenever you want, regardless of what's going on with the product. And most delays, in my experience, come from interdependencies between teams. Breaking away from fixed release cycles, implementing continuous delivery, decoupling the teams as much as you possibly can to break these dependencies allows you to deliver more often, more frequently, and more reliably. Let me give you a real-world example. Back in 2013, I was working at The Guardian. And yes, that's old news, that's a long time ago already. But even back then, when cloud-based technologies and continuous delivery tooling was not as good as it is today, they'd implemented a truly continuous delivery capability. We had a department of about 150 engineers. On average, we were releasing code over 200 times a day into the live product. The Guardian, thanks to these practices, was a continuous delivery machine. And some people I've worked with over the years would be terrified by the prospect of releasing 1 code change a day, let alone on a system used by millions of people over 200 times a day by 100 different engineers on demand. But continuous delivery, ironically, has a few really profound and positive effects on support and problems in the live environment, because firstly, the changes are small and incremental, so problems rarely occur. And when problems do occur, the changes within a particular area, they're small, they're easier to find, and once found, releasing a fix is quick. So rather than creating instability, continuous and frequent delivery reduces the occurrence of problems, reduces the time to fix, as well as enabling faster delivery. So now let's talk a bit about continuous measurement. I'd like to break that down into a few key points. So the first one is to put outcomes over outputs. So we may care about some lead indicators, things like velocity, cycle time, how well the team's delivering, but we must put much more emphasis on outcomes that are for the business or for the users. Outcome-based metrics, for example, might be things like number of users to sign up, retention rates, average order value, frequency of users' purchases, things like that. These are all things that drive revenue and indicate a user's satisfaction with the product. Otherwise, the team might work their socks off, literally working all the hours they like on a really high velocity and actually deliver change that makes no difference, moves no metrics, makes no difference to users. On the other hand, they might spend time, supposedly unproductively, discussing ideas, experimenting with some things, discovering a small change that drives a material difference in the metrics and moves the product in the right direction for its users and the business. In the end, there's no point being busy fools. Focusing on outcomes helps to make sure that the work we do has real impact, and it's very satisfying for the whole team when it does. The second key point about continuous measurement is putting facts over opinion. So admittedly, not all things can be proven with data, but lots can. And when it comes to product development, there's often many different opinions about what to do, what's the right thing, what should be the next thing, what's most important, what's the best thing to do. And most of those opinions, of course, are just that. They're opinions. And as valuable as everyone's opinions are, we should try to shift to a culture where facts are more important than opinions, where facts are seen as more valuable than opinion. So what user research or metrics are available to back up that opinion? Is it a generalized sweeping statement based on a load of assumptions, or is there actually any evidence to back it up? The third key point about continuous measurement is the idea of testing over guessing. So where facts aren't available, honestly, we're really just guessing. And when we're guessing, but we think the opinion might have merit, let's get in the habit of testing and running experiments and trying to validate whether or not the theory and opinion is right. And delivering frequently and having metrics in place allows us to run A/B tests and experiments and test different ideas and measure what really works, and more importantly, what doesn't. And where we don't have facts, then let's at least move towards this idea of testing rather than guessing, something which isn't really practical if we're working on quarterly release cycles or can't measure the outcomes we're trying to move. So continuous measurement helps us to focus on outcomes over outputs, on facts over opinions, and on testing rather than guessing. Coupled with continuous delivery, it enables us to get constant feedback and course correct to ensure we deliver the right product, a product that delivers positive outcomes for its users and for the business. So now let's turn to continuous improvement. Ideally, improvement is a continuous process. People should be looking out for ways to improve constantly. People should be able to have a conversation about how to change something or altering the way the team works whenever it is most timely to do so. And people should be able to do that without the team getting defensive or someone thinking it's not their place to say. When this is a habit for all team members and accepted by all team members, then I would say you have a continuous improvement culture. Making lots of small improvements frequently has an exponential effect. It's like the theory of marginal gains, where they have a compound effect. A 1% improvement every single day results in a massive 37 times improvement in 1 year. You don't necessarily, therefore, have to bite off problems that are too hard to chew. Just keep making tiny, marginal improvements whenever and wherever you see them. Another example of compound effect, if I give you a pound coin that doubles every day, how much money will you have in just 30 days? And the answer is surprising, it's £1 million. So okay, I know there's no investment you can make that will double every day, but the example is just to illustrate how fast things can grow and how quickly things can improve if you do them every single day. It's a bit like going on a diet or going to the gym. Now, I'm no expert in either. I love food and I hate the gym. But if you do something, even something small, consistently every day, it will have a massively greater effect than going to the gym, say, once a month and working out for hours, or just cutting back what you eat once a month. We have to apply the same thinking to improvements in the way that we work. Because small, even tiny improvements every single day and doing it consistently day after day over a long period of time is the idea of forming a continuous improvement habit. So some people and teams find continuous improvement very difficult to do. And it's true, it's much easier said than done. Sometimes people get too busy, they don't notice improvements that could be made, maybe they're just too busy to do anything about them. Sometimes there's the opportunity to improve, but there's just not a good moment for all of the team to get together and discuss. And regular retrospectives from Scrum or XP are a really good way to overcome these barriers before a team is ready to make continuous improvement a daily habit. I've often said to people over the years that if you do nothing else from any Agile method, at least do retrospectives. Because regardless of any other Agile or non-Agile practices, applying regular improvements will make you a better team, Agile or not. And I'm sure you all know a classic retrospective meeting in Scrum is simply to ask the team what went well, what could have gone better, and what should we change. And one thing I really like about retrospectives is the first question, what went well? Because all too often we work in environments where we complain about things that don't work well, we complain about things that are maybe outside of our control, and we forget to acknowledge the very many things that go well and appreciate the things that we like about our team and our organisation and the way that we work. So it's definitely worth not skipping that question. And the key to what could have gone better and what should we change is to make people feel safe enough to mention anything so that everyone has a voice and people don't react in a defensive way. And some good facilitation, some simple techniques can help with this, of course. But in practice, it's about the culture It's about having a culture where people's attitude and tone is right, where feedback is readily given, and even more important, readily accepted. One of the challenges I've often seen with retrospectives is coming up with just too many points to make sense of, and losing the ability to do anything with them, not leaving enough time to discuss them properly or get to any conclusions that the team could action. I sometimes like it if a team is asked just to identify one thing, one idea, one thing we could change. And often team members will have similar issues, of course, because they're affected by the same things. And where a few team members come up with the same one thing, it's much, much easier to get down to making changes to one thing that would really make a difference, as opposed to talking about many things and nothing really much happening with them. It's much, much easier to identify one thing you can action than to try and bite off more than you can chew. I think the problem with retrospectives is sometimes the same things come up time and time again, never being actioned or solved. It just can turn into a regular moaning session, thoroughly demoralizing and giving people this feeling of change fatigue or retrospective fatigue. So it's important to focus on things that are within the team's remit to solve, or at least in the team's remit to influence. Otherwise, it can just turn into a demoralizing moaning session that doesn't help anyone. And sometimes people are resistant to change, particularly if it involves defining a grand new process, going through multiple rounds of decision-making and discussion to get it agreed, and then implementing it only to find that it doesn't work, or it works for some teams and not others. You can break down this barrier simply by reframing changes as an experiment. Let's try something for a couple of weeks. Let's see if it helps. If it does, we'll keep it. If it doesn't, we can always change it or scrap it. We won't be spending huge amounts of time trying to define and implement a huge process that has to be rolled out to all teams. Instead, let's just focus on making changes to the way we work as a team, making small incremental improvements to how we do things in our own team. And it's these continuous improvements and constant adjustments that help you to find the right way of working for your team, in your context, with your problems and for your people. Because remember, there are loads of different ways to do anything, but there's no one right way. So now let's turn to the subject of leadership. As a leader, it's really important for you to create the environment and the conditions for your team to succeed and thrive. If you can create an environment where people respect each other, they help each other, support each other, they're kind to each other, they pull in the same direction. Together with capabilities like continuous delivery, continuous measurement, continuous improvement, I am sure you'll do well regardless of methodology. I'd like to add two other quick points about leadership that I hope will help you to foster the right environment. So the first point is vision and purpose, and the second is about servant leadership. So first, about purpose. So people want to know why their work matters, because meaningful work is really inspiring. And increasingly people care about why their work matters and why they're doing something, not just what they're doing or how they're doing it. One of our clients, Elsevier, is a great example of this. People there, they are not just building software. They're not just creating tools for people to publish content. They're not even just accelerating science. They're creating tools that help people all over the world to discover scientific breakthroughs that improve humanity. They're things that improve humanity for our families, for our children, our grandchildren, literally things that change the world for the better. And that's why I loved working at Elsevier. I used to remind people of it all the time, during the recruitment process, when they're onboarding, or to help G up a team when they're running into problems and losing motivation, and remind them of the importance and significance of their work. Another hypothetical example is another client, Just Eat. When their system goes down, the attitude could be, oh well, people have to find a different way of getting their dinner tonight. But that's not really the point. Instead, we can adopt a different mindset. Thousands of small businesses takeaway restaurants rely on Just Eat for their living. They're small family businesses, and they rely on the income from Just Eat in order to feed their own families. And Just Eat enables thousands of small family businesses to thrive in this digital delivery age in a way that they could never do on their own. In the 101 Ways case, our mission is to improve and enrich people's lives through technology, which is a way to help us focus on the products that we would like to work on and those that we wouldn't. So try to make sure, wherever possible, that your team thinks about their work in terms of the positive impact it has on others and give them a clear sense of purpose. Now let's talk for a minute about servant leadership. And what is it that is your role as a leader? Nowadays, smart people want to be more autonomous. They want to be more collaborative, self-organizing. They maybe don't want to be managed. So what then is really the role of a leader? I think your role as a leader is to establish a clear vision, a common direction, a strong sense of purpose, a good culture, values, principles, and a great environment. After that, your role is to support and coach people and help them to solve their own problems. It's not really about managing their work, telling them what to do or how to do it. Not if we hire smart, motivated, committed people. It's more about what we can do to clear the path for them to do their thing. And how can we help them, look after them, and help them to learn and grow, feel safe, and like they belong. So ask yourself this: are you the kind of leader that will deal with the crap so your team doesn't have to? Would you make personal sacrifices so your team doesn't have to? For example, taking a pay cut to save a colleague's job. If there wasn't enough food, would you go without so your team can eat? Or are you the kind of leader that goes to the front and fills your plate first? As the name servant leadership suggests, it's all about the desire, first and foremost, to serve your teams. Look at the people in the army as an example, people who put their lives on the line for others. So why would I follow you? Because if I know when the chips are down, you'll put your team's interests and my interests before your own. If I know that you'll do that for me, then I'll do anything for you. So successful product delivery, in my opinion, is not really about set processes or predefined methodologies. It's all about people, enabling people to work well together and create the right conditions for people to thrive. There's a huge part of that that's about culture and environment that we create and foster for our people. And another huge part that's about some of these basic principles and the ideas behind the essence of agility. The ability to deliver frequently, the ability to focus on outcomes and measure results, the ability to constantly improve, to move forwards together with purpose, and to do all of that with lightweight, collaborative and flexible processes that aren't based on one sacred methodology or cast in stone, working in ways that are more people-oriented, more human ways of working. So please remember, doing Agile won't solve your problems. It's solving your problems that makes you more agile. And whilst technologies and methodologies might seem important, in the end it's about people. It's the people that create and use the products that matter most. And on that note, I'd like to finish with this quote from Gene Kranz, NASA's flight director for Apollo 13. And Gene said, "We'd risen to probably one of the greatest technology challenges in history. We put a man on the moon in a decade. We created incredible technologies. But what was most important, we created the teams, what I call the human factor, people who are energized by a mission." Thank you very much and enjoy the conference.